All right, everybody, by my clock, that's 1 o'clock. So we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Nick Stout. I'm the Idaho Realtors Communications Director. And I just want to take a moment and thank everyone for joining us this month for our Wednesday webinar with IREC. We're having Michelle Bird give a little presentation today, giving us an IREC update for our members. So here in a second, I'll pass this off to Michelle, but thank you all for joining us. Do me a favor, if you haven't already done so, try to keep your microphones muted throughout the meeting just to kind of help us keep the line open. There might be some connection issues on Michelle's end throughout the call, so if she drops off for any reason, we'll go ahead and just take a brief pause and pick right back up when she rejoins. But thank you guys very much for joining us this week. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and pass this over to Michelle. Michelle, thank you so much for helping us out today.
Thanks, Nick, for inviting me. We always appreciate the opportunity to address the realtors and kind of let you know what we're doing here at IREC. I do apologize if I drop off. We are in the middle of a move. And so I have extra people in our office today that are moving from one building to another. And this morning, my connection hasn't been completely stable. So I hear that Nick is going to sing if I drop off, right, Nick?
Most assuredly, yeah, I'll do my best.
Great. So thanks again. Most of you, many of you, I know, I see some new faces and some that I have seen many times. Our update doesn't change drastically, but I'm always happy to give you an update what we're doing here at IREC. And I think we will probably have time where you guys can ask questions. So feel free, like Nick said, to put anything in the chat box. I think he'll probably keep an eye on that. And then
where do you want it, Mom?
And then I'm happy to answer questions. As I go through, if you want to ask questions during the time I'm talking, feel free to do that too. I will address a lot, just kind of an update, and then we can talk about some specific things. So hot off the press, I will start with our licensing numbers. On June 1st, we had 17,052 licensees, which is absolutely crazy. I think I was going to look back. I think when I started 12 years ago, we had not like 9,000, between 8,000 and 9,000. So it has more than doubled in the last 12 years. And as you guys probably realize, it has significantly increased in the past 2 years. I think I have added approximately 1,200 new licensees just this year, since June of last year. So that's crazy. We have 1,359 real estate companies. And one of the things that we kind of watch is how our licensees, how the numbers are by districts. And the last read that I got was that the Southwestern District has 59% of the licensees in it. So that would be the Ada County, Boise, Gem, Payette, Washington, Valley. All of those areas have 59% of our licensees. And then South Central has 10%, North District has 19%, and the Southeastern District has 12%. So that kind of gives you a little rundown of where the agents are in our state. One of the things that we always like to watch is where our, how many of our licensees, so we are the regulators, we are here to protect the public in real estate regulated real estate transactions. But the interesting thing is we serve almost the same people that the associations serve. So although we are two separate entities, we have basically the same membership. 90% of our licensed salespeople and brokers are also Realtor members, or over 90%. We're about 92%, I think, right now, which is crazy. In Idaho, we have that crossover, like that we are one of the highest states of licensees to Realtor percentages. And I always think that that makes a difference in the relationship that we have with the Realtor Association. We have, for the past, well, since I've been here, we just work really well with the association. We work together, and I think that makes for a better industry for you guys. And I rely on the industry to kind of make me a better regulator. So we have 5 commissioners right now, or always. The governor has appointed each of these. We have commissioners in each of the 4 districts that I talked about, and then we have a public member. And right now our commissioners are Mike Johnston for the Southeast District, and Mike's term actually expires June of this year. He can reapply. I have not seen anything from the governor's office, so I don't know what is going to happen with that one. I have Kim Cooper from the North District, Jill Stone from the South Central District, and Elizabeth Hume is our new commissioner out of the Southwest District. And then again, our public member who is not in the industry, he actually is a BLM employee. His name is Martin Espil. So those are your commissioners that represent the industry on the commission. So one of the things that we always talk about when we get a chance to update you guys are kind of our compliance trends. What's going on? What are we seeing? What mistakes are people making? And I kind of hate to lead with this because quite honestly, there's about 2 to 3% of our licensees that have any compliance issues. 97% of you guys never have anything in the way of compliance, but I know that you're working with it, all of the other agencies or all the other agents around the state. And so we always kind of just bring this to your attention. In compliance, we often have fines.
I can't get my.
We have fines connected to compliance issues. And you may or may not know, but all of those fines are required to be used for education. So we keep the fine money separate. We know what our fines are. And last year we collected about $150,000 in fines from real estate agents. And of that $150,000, 71% were collected for 2 things: problems with Arizona emissions insurance and problems with late continuing education. And when that first came to my attention a couple of years ago, it just really shocked me because those are so preventable with just a little bit of care on your license. I think both of those are really preventable. We do not really want to collect the fines. We have a pretty good cash balance that can enable us to continue to serve you guys. But we collect, last year we collected about $100,000 on Arizona emissions and continuing education. So the late E&O, if you guys have the RICE policy, so the group policy that the state is in contract with, that expires on September 30th. So I always like to give a little plug. If you carry that E&O insurance, you need to make sure prior to September 30th, you have that purchased. Your renewal form should be coming out in about a month. You can start renewing that. And we always include it as soon as you see it if you are on that policy. Now, and the other thing is late continuing education. And Nick and I talked last week about a couple of things that we see mostly for CE violations. And I thought I'd just go through a couple of those today. So one of the things that we often see is people thinking that you can take your classes after you renew, as long as it's before the renewal deadline. And although we appreciate those of you that renew early, when you renew, you are actually attesting that you have completed all of your continuing education. So you can renew up to 90 days early. And if you renew 30 days early and you think I still have 30 days to finish my education, that is not correct, because when you click the button to say, I attest that my continuing education is complete, that becomes a problem. In license law, it's called filing a false application, which sounds kind of big, but so just make sure that all of your continuing education is completed prior to pushing your renewal button. The other thing that we see that is something that is unfortunate is when new agents come on, they are required to take the post-license education instead of the electives during their first renewal period. And during that, and so they will take electives instead of post-license, and that's a problem. We also see some people that are taking Code of Ethics instead of their 2 commission core, and then taking the commission core twice, the same core twice. You have to take each year of commission core. You cannot ever get the credit for the same commission core. So make sure when you renew that you have 2 different years. Each year we come out with a new core, and they always have the year behind it. So when you check your education, make sure that your cores are 2 different years. And hopefully you all know how to check your education. When you go into the IREC website, you can, when you log in to your license, you can see what education has posted. The providers have a couple of days to get it posted to our website. So if you look immediately, you probably won't see education posted, but if you wait for a couple of days, you should be able to tell exactly what education has posted to our system. If you don't know if you have enough education and you want to be sure before you renew, always feel free to call the commission. We're happy to help walk through your education with you. I recently had someone call and ask me and apologize that he had to call and ask me for if he had enough education. But you know, when I looked at his education history, he was missing one of the cores. So we would really always welcome you to call us. We would rather tell you that you're missing a core before you renew than after you renew, and we have to, and it becomes a CE violation. So always feel free to call us on that. So let's talk about a couple of other compliance trends. One of the ones that we have seen for a long time is unlicensed practice. Now that doesn't as much affect you guys, but a lot of times in commercial transactions, we will see unlicensed practice where commercial agents come in from out of state, and maybe they have a national contract with a big box store, and they come in and find property here. So we actually, one of our most repetitive compliance issues is the unlicensed practice. The only thing as a licensed agent you need to remember on that is make sure the people that you are working with, if they come to work with you, that they are licensed, and don't ever advertise that they are working on one of your properties unless they are licensed or have a cooperative license in Idaho for that property. Unfortunately, one of the trends that we've started seeing over the past probably 2-3 years, almost every single commission meeting, the commissioners review probable cause memos on forgery, which The first time we saw one, we could not believe that we had agents forging their clients' names. But I will tell you that, we have 6 commission meetings a year, and almost everyone in the last year, we've had a forgery case, at least one. Now, mostly what we're seeing is an electronic forgery, where a agent is clicking the button in a DocuSign just to sign their client's name. I thought is funny when I was asking our enforcement guys about this. They said, you should remind them that it's not a client service to sign the client's name for them. It is actually considered forgery. A lot of times we hear when we go to investigate these, a lot of times we'll hear, well, they were traveling that day, and with this market, we had to get this offer submitted. So I just went ahead and sent it to my email address and signed it. They told me I could. The clients told me I could. I just want I want to reemphasize that without a legal power of attorney, you cannot do that. You cannot sign that client's name. We had, I talked in a group a couple of days ago, and someone asked me, I have some elderly clients and they don't really work on a computer very often, and I wanted to send them the documents. And so they both agreed that I could send the documents to their daughter and they could sign it. The daughter could sign it for them. Well, the daughter didn't have power of attorney. So if that came back around and for some reason the parents got mad at the daughter, they could go after her for signing that document, and that could be a problem with your contract. So just remember, no electronic signing. It's not a client service. It is actually forgery. The other thing that we've seen for years, I feel like a broken record because I feel like some of these things we just keep seeing over and over, is failure to account for property. So that could be letting unlicensed people or unaccompanied access to the properties. It could be giving a buyer client keys to the property early and letting them move in. It could be letting the inspector go in unaccompanied without permission of the seller. And most of these depend on getting permission from the seller. There are times where a seller will give permission for certain unoccupied access to the properties. Make sure you have that in writing, that permission from the seller in writing. We had a case about a year ago where there was communication, and the buyer wanted to move in 2 days early because their moving van got here, and the seller had said, I won't give access early. The transaction won't fund until the Monday. But of course, it always happens that the moving truck was there on Friday, and they happened to have their neighbor call them. And when someone drove by, everything was already moved into the garage. So that was one of our current compliance issues that we had just a year ago. So we're still seeing it. And I feel like I talk about it probably for the last couple of years. I've been talking about it. So just remember to account for all of your properties. That also includes if you have an actual paper check, do not leave it in your car, get it to where it has to be. That would be failure to account for the monies in the transaction. And then, of course, one of the things that we hear over and over and over, and some of our things are agent on agent crime. We get advertising violations submitted to us pretty much every day. We hear about people not advertising with their brokerage name. And so that's something that we get all the time. And then also communication. And we really have no jurisdiction at the Real Estate Commission to make agents communicate with each other but we can always encourage the best practice of communicating. when we get complaints submitted from another agent, often it goes back to being respectful to each other and having good communication. And sometimes, we get to the end of an investigation and we look at each other, the investigators look at each other and say, oh my gosh, if they would have just communicated this, it would not have come to as a complaint to us. But we do see those, like every week, at least we get those types of complaints coming into the office. I did. So I'm going to try to multitask here. Okay. I see we have a question. Can appraisers gain interest without prior permission or notice by using their lockbox key? So we do kind of have a different situation where they have some people, depending on the MLS, have lockbox keys, and they can go in. We always encourage you so they get access without you giving them access. And so what we look at for the agents is, have you given this person unaccompanied access? I would encourage you, if you know that they're coming in, to make sure the sellers know and get that confirmation. But what we really deal with mostly is when you are giving that person access. And it's a little bit different with the lockbox now, but like if you've hidden a key or that, that would be really the situation that we look at the commission. And then one last thing that we've talked about in compliance, and it's not really compliance, but it's about renewing your license. We see a lot of people that will renew their license late, and hopefully everybody knows that your license expires the last day of the month of your birth month, and it expires at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, not Pacific Time. Sorry, North Idaho. So 5 p.m. Mountain Time is your expiration. And if you expire even a couple of minutes late, or if you expire and you renew your license even a couple of minutes late, when you expire, your license automatically goes on an inactive status on our in our system. So we have sometimes people that expire and then they renew immediately. But because they have gone to that expired status, they are inactive. And the only way they become active again is to have their broker bring them back into the company. And so often we'll see people expire, renew quickly, and not realize that their license is on inactive status. So in some of our MLSs, they have the ability, they pull our licensing, and all of a sudden you can't get access to the MLS because you're inactive. And they'll call us and say, I renewed my license. And most of the time, those situations are, you did not know that you were inactive. You have to have your broker reactivate your license. It's a simple thing. For those of you that are designated brokers, all you have to do is go log into your login and pull that person back into your company. It takes just minutes and then they are active again. That makes your license go active again. So if by chance your license is expired or you go inactive, you must have the broker reactivate you by pulling you back into their company. Okay, so one of the things that we usually this time of year get to talk about is what legislative ideas we are moving forward. And this year we are not moving forward any legislative ideas as an agency. Okay, let me back up before I start on this. Let me go to this chat question. Thank you, Lori. Okay, if you put your license inactive, do you still have to have the training if you don't go active? So the only time you have to have your continuing education credits are if you're active. And it's kind of nuanced. So when you activate your license again, you have to have the continuing education that you would normally have to have during that license period. But if you remain inactive, as long as you remain inactive, you do not have to have any continuing education. And you actually don't have to have errors and omissions insurance. So only when you're active do you need to have that in place. You can continue renewing every 2 years in order to have an inactive license, but you don't have to have that education. So hopefully that answered your question. Let me know if it didn't, and I'll try to do a better job, but I think that might answer it. And of course, always call the commission if you need more advice on that. Okay, so let's talk about legislation. We have, okay, Lori, remind me and I'll get back to that. We are going to talk about referral licenses a little bit later too. So we have for years, for any of you guys that have been on this call in previous years, we've talked about having new legislation on teams. And we took it forward to the governor's office. So I'm a state agency. And in order to have any legislation, I have to take it first to the governor's office. And our first deadline is in June. So we start working way ahead of the actual legislative session on legislation. And probably starting, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, we started working on team legislation. And I think 2 years ago, I took it to the governor's office and got it approved. But then we started working with, there were so many questions on what the legislation should look like. And we always work with the association on what the legislation looks like. I'm not an agent. I depend on you guys to tell me what actually happens out in the industry. And so I can put together legislation and write the legalese, but it may not work for industry. So we always work together with the association. And I had a piece of draft legislation, probably a year and a half ago. And I met with the Idaho Realtors and we kind of decided that it was not perfect. I wasn't claiming that it was, but we still had some work to do and we still had some questions to answer. So we put it on hold and decided that we would potentially take something back in the future. But after that, we decided we actually wanted to do kind of like a team registration instead and see if that helped the situation. So most of the times the complaints I get on teams are, I can't get a hold of the right person. I don't know who the broker actually is, who the team is associated with. And honestly, the charge of the Real Estate Commission is to protect the public. And so we looked at it from that point of view, like how do we protect the public and what is the problem with teams that we need to protect the public from. And the one thing that we decided as a commission, or my commissioners decided, is the public needs to be able to find who the person ultimately responsible for a transaction if a team is involved. So we want them to be able to search a team name or a team leader and be able to find who the designated broker is. So the commission has voted to put together a notification form, and that form will be coming out. We have to get it programmed in, but I think the form will be coming out in the next probably month. And we are sending out a broker bulletin to each of the designated brokers, and we will encourage them to share with all of their agents. But the team notification form will be just that. It will be a registration of all of the teams. It will contain the name of the team lead, the licensed team members, the unlicensed team members, the team lead's phone number and email address. And that team notification form will be both for us and for the designated brokers. We had heard in the past that sometimes the designated brokers don't even know exactly what teams are acting underneath them because there was no requirement for them to know that. So we are putting out this notification form, and we are requesting that everyone that is a team lead fill out this form and submit it to the agency. And then anytime there is a change to the team, the designated broker will need to be notified. So that is a brand new thing. There are lots of questions on how this is going to work. I think this will help us identify where the problems really are and how we can help there be less problems with teams. Like I said, that team notification document will come out probably in the next month, and it will be sent to all of the designated brokers to disseminate between all of their agents. And then our IT people, our programmers, have told me that they will actually have it on our search function. Their goal is by the end of July. So they told me 4 weeks, so around the end of July. And then at that point, you'll be able to search. So if you run into a team name, you should be able to search on our website and identify who the designated broker is in case you need to get a hold of the person that's ultimately responsible. We started kind of collecting information on teams, probably 2 years ago when we first drafted the team legislation. And one of the things that we found incredible is when team members would call our office and talk to the investigations department, and they would say, "Who is your designated broker?" And they would say the team lead, and we'd say, "No, what brokerage are you at?" And they'd tell us the brokerage, and we'd go, "No, your designated broker is actually this person." And so it really surprised us how many agents actually didn't realize who the actual designated broker was. They would refer back to their team lead instead of the designated broker. So that's something that we really want everybody to start knowing: who is your designated broker and the differences between your team lead and the designated broker. Every transaction that's completed, even by teams, are the ultimate responsibility of the designated broker. Unfortunately, that puts a lot of responsibility on the DBs, and we're trying to help them with the process as well. So designated brokers, look for a broker bulletin coming out in the next probably 3 to 4 weeks from Mike Johnston and from the division that talks about the team notification form and some questions that might come up with that. We presented that at our last commission meeting in Idaho Falls and had all kinds of responses, questions, concerns. And so we're going to try to address all of those on the broker bulletin. But as always, if the broker bulletin comes out and you guys have more questions, let me know. And for those of you that are designated brokers and know that you're already going to have some questions you want to ask the commission, feel free to email those to me, and I'll try to include those on the broker bulletin so we can address them with everyone. Some of the questions that we already know we're going to address are: how do teams need to advertise? Who is ultimately responsible for the transactions completed within the team? What constitutes a team? And then also agency violations, like how to handle offers that are going to teams, how transaction coordinators, how to handle transaction coordinators that identify with multiple teams. So we'll try to answer all of those in the broker bulletin, but again, feel free to email me if you have any that you'd like us to address in that bulletin before it goes out in the next few weeks. Okay, let's go back to, let me look at these questions real quick. Okay, so you need a new core every year. So the question is, my license renews August 31st. It seems that each year the new core doesn't come out until August 1st-ish. Sometimes it's difficult to get into training in time for my renewal. May I use the prior 2-year classes? So that has been one of the concerns ever since the legislation was passed that you had to have core every single year. And we strive to get it out. It's actually available in the live form on July 1st. It becomes active. And but I know our online courses have not always been out until August at some point. We don't develop and deliver those. It's up to the individual providers. So we don't have complete control over when those come out. I know it's a problem. If you're taking them online, then you just need to keep watching. We try to push them as fast as we can. As long as you take a different core, that's okay. But if you've already taken that core, so it kind of depends on how your license renews and what core classes you've already taken. If you've already taken the core class, like let's say you're supposed to take 21 and 22 this year, but you want to take 20. If you took 20 for your previous renewal cycle, that one doesn't count. So I know it's an issue. Please call the commission if you see that as a problem. We have the information to the online providers already. So we are just pushing, hopefully it will be out early in July, but I know it's an issue. And if it becomes a problem again this year, coming out late, please feel free to call the commission and we'll help you. It's even worse for the July birthdays. I have to tell you, you have an extra month there, but let us know. We're happy to figure out how we can help you on that. But I do understand that if you have a July or August birthday, sometimes that core requirement is a time crunch. So speaking of core 2022 comes out July 1st. In it is the usual things like case law, legislative update. We have a brand new advertising guideline that we just revised. We put 2 guidelines together into one advertising guideline. We have a section on water rights that is really, really good. I think that will be one of the really valuable sections in this commission core. And again, that comes out July 1st. And hopefully, I'm sorry, I didn't get an update to how quickly we think the online classes are, but we should, my education department should know that information, and we will try to get that information out to you guys as soon as possible. So the only other, I had like 2 other quick little things. Like I said before, we are moving. About 2 years ago, the governor we've been a standalone agency since 1947, and in June of 2020, We were consolidated with 48 other licensing boards, and we are now under one big umbrella agency. And because of that, we are all moving into one location. And the move, actually, people started moving today. Today is the first day of our move, but we will all be out at the Chinden campus. So any of you that are familiar with Boise and have been around Boise for a while, the old HP campus is now owned by the state of Idaho, and we will be moving out there in the next couple of weeks. So come see us out there. We'll have our commission meetings out there, I think, starting in July. And if you're around the area, come see us out there. And then, let's see. Core can be live, yes. If you log into our, or if you come onto the IREC website, there is a search for classes. If you search for Commission Core 2022, it should show you all of the live course offerings that are in your area. And I know the providers add those as they add them. The providers add those to our system as they add them to their calendar. So keep checking back. I don't know what has been added so far, but there's probably already some that will be advertised on the commission website. Oh, temporary waiver. We have not done that. We have not allowed a waiver for the commission core courses. When the law change first happened, we allowed people to take previous courses. We had like 3 years ahead, but now that it's been in place for a long time, people typically have already taken those core courses, and our law does not allow us to give credit for those duplicate courses. But no, we have not given temporary waivers. We constantly talk every year about what we can do, but no, we have not to date been doing that. Oh, and thank you, Nick. Nick put the education search link in the chat box. So if you guys want to look for, if you want to search for commission core courses that have already been scheduled, that would be the place that you do it. And that was really all of the information, the update that I had prepared. I know that Nick had one question come in, and I'm happy to answer it, Nick, if you want to run that, or if we have any other questions.
Sorry, I was muted.
Oh, okay.
It looks like we had one last question come into the chat about credit, so maybe I'll let you look at that while I pull up the question I received.
Sure. Oh, Kaylin. Okay, so if an agent renewed before they had all of their credits, and see, that's the situation, but thought they had the rest of the month, is it better that they reach out to us or just wait for us to come and get them? So I would prefer that you reach out to us. If you know that you renewed, as soon as you do that, reach out to us. Our, with this transition into this big division, our CE audits run a couple of months behind schedule. And so in this situation, I would, if I were an agent, I would want to just get it taken care of as soon as possible. So reach out to the commission. We can help you figure it out and get you right back on track. So I would prefer that they reach out.
Okay, now, well, that was my advice. Absolutely. They were a little reluctant. And I don't know what the fine is. Should I like set that expectation? What her fine? She already got her credits and she's good, but and renewed, but she decided maybe she'd wait for you to come and get her. So.
No, I would certainly tell you to call us first.
Okay.
And then we can get you right back on track immediately. Typically in that situation, if it's a first time that offense, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say this, it's recording, right? The first time offense is typically just a staff letter. So you don't usually even get a fine for that, but we want to get you back on track and make sure you have all your credits.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. I'm not seeing where you can schedule commission core ahead of time. So if you're a provider, the only people that can schedule the commission core is if you're a provider and they have a separate access into there. And then if they have it scheduled on our website, you have to go to the provider to register for the class. Hopefully that helped.
All right, Michelle, I have that question. I'm going to put it in the chat and then I'll read it so you can respond to it, but I'll send it in the chat so everyone can read it as well.
Okay, awesome.
Do
You know what? Let me answer Nancy. Nancy,
Oh.
I think it looks like this is you. I will get that fixed. Sorry. So Nancy is a provider and she says she's trying to add the 2022 core. It's not available to add in the system yet. So that's something that my education department needs to fix. I'll get that done as soon as possible. So if you're not seeing commission core live classes on the schedule, like I just told you, you could see, that's why. So check back. We will get that fixed this week.
Alrighty, so here's the question I received. Do you know if any legislation may be proposed in the next couple of years to license property managers? I asked because my local association recently sent an email to its members that the EPA will be performing record keeping and reporting inspections for property managers in their area. It seems this is the type of property management activity licensure would ensure be done by all property managers and not just big property managers that may be well versed in property management regulations. Do you have anything you'd like to respond to that with?
So obviously I don't know for sure. Who knows what people will do? We are probably, as the Real Estate Commission, not going to bring forward legislation to regulate property managers. We have a legislature, just to be honest, we have a legislature that is not into adding regulations and adding licenses. So there's a lot of hurdles if we want to add that type of legislation. But there are a couple of representatives and legislators that are very interested in property management licensing. And a couple of them have reached out to me over the last couple of years. There's not a huge appetite. The ones that I've talked to have said, we kind of want to take baby steps on this and start putting some teeth into it. In landlord tenant law, I think it was Representative Troy worked on a piece of legislation that kind of put some new guidelines into the landlord tenant law and required that the deposits are in a separate account, but there is no one that looks at that. There's no one that can look at those accounts. There's nothing in the legislation that lets us regulate the property managers. So I think that we'll see some pieces of legislation every year. We saw a couple last year. I think we'll see some pieces of legislation. I don't know if they will actually become licensed, but it more than likely won't come from the Real Estate Commission. But if there is a license, it will probably be under our purview. So if you see it as a problem, I would talk to your legislator. Or we don't some of our property management associations have also talked about bringing legislation. And so it would come from one of those two places. Probably not from the Real Estate Commission, at least in the next couple of years.
All right, those are all the questions that we've received so far. I think the floor is open. If anyone, has a question they'd like to ask Michelle, we have a few minutes available to us here at the end of the hour.
I just want to say
for doing this. It's really helpful and it's nice to keep up with everything. So thank you for making this happen.
Yeah, thanks, Nick, for inviting us, and thanks to the realtors. We have such a great relationship. We love to be able to update you guys and tell you what we're seeing from our end. I think, you know, when I talk to the other states, the association and the commission communicate pretty well. And I think that helps all of us in the long run. So thank you for allowing me the time. I really appreciate it.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on and making the time to talk with us, Michelle.
Yes.
Lori Fleming wants to remind us we're going to circle back to referral agents before the end. So do you have a second? We want to go back to that.
Yes, thank you, Lori. See, I knew I would forget. So I have been getting in the last like 2 weeks, I've been getting questions from some brokers about whether we have a referral license. So can you put your license on a referral status and still get paid referral fees? And in Idaho, we do not have that. I am part of an international association of other real estate regulators. And I have just put that question out to them about what their referral licenses look like. It may be something that we can look at in the future. Right now, we do not have that license status. So you're either active or inactive, but I get that it seems to be coming up a lot. And so it's something that we will be investigating. I already am. Oh, okay. Lori's you have them in Utah. Great. I will reach out to my colleagues in Utah and anybody else that has them. So stay tuned. Maybe it's something that we will look at in the future. Like I said, regulation's kind of hard to get through the legislature right now, but if it's a worthwhile piece, I'll fight for it. And so I am investigating that. So maybe next year if you let me do another update, I'll have more information on referral licenses.
Well, we will absolutely invite you back. This has been great. And I think everyone really appreciates you taking the time to talk to us. So, we have Katrina Weir has one quick question, it looks like. More questions popping in the chat.
If that makes sense, Michelle, if you want to.
Okay, let me see.
I was typing fast.
Yes. So Gail is allowing that. So you can do your
So it's like on a single spreadsheet, right? And that's the sample she sent me, and that's what I've been doing. But as I'm reading the law, it references individual ledger cards. So I'm like, okay, well, so Gail is allowing it, but what happens if Gail retires?
You know what? Let me check back with Gail, because I was thinking that we had agreed that you still have to keep your ledger cards I thought the ledger sheets were only for, I don't know. Let me check back on that. Okay, I apologize.
So if we can just do one spreadsheet, could we maybe clean up the law so if Gail retires?
Yes, absolutely. I can do. Will you, Katrina, will you email me that, please?
Yep.
And then I will get back to you, and I'll send it also to Nick. If you have a way to communicate the answer to that, that would be great.
All righty. I think we have time for maybe one more question before the end of the hour. Does anyone have any last questions or thoughts they want to share? Mark has 54-2044 for record keeping questions.
Thank you, Mark. You don't have a question for me today? You always have a question.
All right, I think we'll go ahead and call that webinar there. If anyone's interested, I'm putting into the chat right now a link to a little video. Before this Wednesday webinar, Michelle was able to sit down with me for our Idaho Realtors podcast, and we did about 11-minute interview where we kind of went over some high-level issues that we kind of touched on in today's webinar. But you know, if you're looking for some more information or kind of want to look to see if we have any answers to some common questions, go ahead and look to that. Otherwise, I think we are set for the day. Michelle, IREC, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time, and everyone on the call, we really appreciate you taking the time to come join us today for this little Wednesday webinar.